I've seen her in a damn t-shirt. I was thinking when I was, of course I ran until I was 60. I wasn't wintertime in a damn shirt. I put it in a coat. It's on streets.
Well, I'm old. During the winter, I dress, but I didn't go in my house winter. I'm 60. I always have
I'm
a
80.
t-shirt.
I'm 80. You gonna get colder every damn week.
All right, I think we're ready to call the meeting to order. Thank you all for being here. Doc, would you like to?
Yeah. Could you stand, please? Father, we thank you for this wonderful community that we have the opportunity to serve. Here we have beauty, and we have 4 distinct seasons of the year. And we thank you for getting this community through this recent storm without any substantive damage. Father, we thank you for the interested citizens who attend this meeting. More than that, Father, we just thank you for our dedicated and diligent staff who work so hard for us to have adequate information to decide these important matters. We ask you to give us wisdom, give us judgment. We know that the decisions that we make are important and that they have long-term effects on the quality of life in this lovely community. And we just ask you to bless this community, bless the interested citizens that are here, and bless us as we do your work in this committee. In Jesus' name we pray, amen. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay. We need to start by approving the minutes from the previous meeting.
So move.
2 seconds, all right? In favor, yes? Motion approved. And then approval for the agenda or a motion to amend the agenda for this evening. We good?
I move that we approve the agenda as submitted.
I second.
All right, approved too. Good, good. All right, public hearing.
Now, you didn't say opposed by a like sign.
Excuse me?
Kidding me.
Oh, did I call for a vote? No. Anybody vote? We got a vote on the motion?
So there's a motion to approve the agenda in a second, so we should vote on it.
Vote on it. Yes.
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 Now, this is where you say opposed by a similar sign.
Or does anyone oppose the
There you go.
motion? All right. All right, our public hearing tonight. So we're going to consider a motion to approve the rezoning request of parcels BR 02022 and BR 02023 from C1, which is Neighborhood Commercial District, to CBD, which is Central Business District, and a conditional use of BR 02022 and BR 02023 to allow the development of a hotel motel in the CBD district. You gonna read the report? Okay.
So the staff analysis, the staff report has been provided and is available online, so we're just going to go over the contents of that. This is an application by V2 Holdings LLC to rezone a certain real property located at 742 East 2nd Street from C1 Neighborhood Commercial to CBD Central Business District, and for a conditional use permit to allow for the development of a hotel onto the property. There's also a request for a concurrent variance to exceed the maximum building height of 35 feet to allow for the structure to be 49 feet 6 inches in height as measured from East 2nd Street. While this is part of the application, the variance requests are a purview of the mayor and council, so it's not considered tonight. Your task is to simply make a recommendation on the rezoning and the conditional use of the permit. Staff has reviewed the application, and the staff analysis, as I said, is in your packet, and the recommendation from staff was for a denial of the application. We want to just highlight the areas that stand out to us. The proposal is inconsistent with the future land use map, and if you could take a moment just to view the screen and for you guys and commission your first page in Exhibit A. This is just to clarify the two lots, BR 02022 and BR 02023, being C1 in the center of the screen highlighted in yellow. On the left, you'll see in light blue the CBD for central business. And this is just to give you an idea of how close that it is to the R1 in the dark blue on the right. Staff pointed out that the property is currently C1, so it will need to be addressed in the future updates on the future land use map. C1 district is a small scale commercial use, so it is intended to be as a buffer district between residential neighborhoods and more intense. Staff notes that the current C1 zoning serves as a buffer between the CBD and properties on east and the residential ones on west. So that's what's depicted in the photo there. So for everyone, you can see the streets there. They believe that the proposed hotel would be inconsistent with our purposes in zoning. In contrast, the CBD district is a more high-density commercial use and would not serve the purpose as a buffer in accordance with our ordinances. Staff also believes that the property could be developed and is suitable for uses under the current C1 zoning. That is, proposed use its proposed use may adversely affect the value adjacent and the nearby residential properties. That the proposed use may adversely affect the traffic in the area and will likely require upgrades to nearby sewer infrastructure. That the proposed height and size of the proposed hotel are incompatible with the surrounding properties, and that the benefits of the proposed hotel do not outweigh its impact on the neighboring properties. For these reasons, we recommend a staff denial at this time on the application. However, if the Planning Commission moves in disagreement and recommends an approval, in your packet, we've listed out some suggested conditions for you. They were there to review, and that is our staff report. Thank you, Greg.
Is there anyone that would like to speak in favor of the project? Yeah, come on up.
I'm Matt Hollander. I'm president of E2 Holdings with my two partners, Craig and Paul. And thanks, Doc. I think it's wonderful that we still got part of this country that can open with prayer at a government function. We love Blue Ridge. We've been coming here for a long time. Paul and I have had projects here. We have a lot of friends here. We have family close by, and we do real estate development for a living. So we want to do what would be a great development for the community, and we're vulnerable. If together we decide that there would be a better use than a hotel, we're open to it. We feel like over the last year, and I'm going to ask Paul to speak briefly about, in case some of you don't know the history of what we went through since we went under contract. We just want to do what's right by the city and what makes sense for us. What we heard was you need a nice boutique hotel. We've heard a lot of negative comments about other hotels in the area. We can also just do something the way it is, which would allow us to still do a hotel, not as nice as what we would like to do, but that's why we brought on Craig. Craig's a great friend and a business partner, but also a renowned architect who's won a lot of awards, and his specialty is hospitality. I'll let Craig speak more of his experience, but it is in boutique hotels. We've actually talked to a hotel management company that is known for boutique hotels. They actually are all over the world. They recently won an award in South Africa for best hotel resort in the world. It's called, it's not necessary to give their name, but I just want to say, when we had our meeting with staff, we were somewhat passionate, might be the word to use. For me, it may have been emotional because we've spent the last year working on this really hard, and we were kind of blindsided that there was a recommendation to deny, because we felt like we just kept changing the plan to appease what we thought the city wanted. So I'm here to say, as president of E2, we're open and vulnerable. On that land, as it's currently zoned, or even if we went through a rezoning, and y'all correct me if I'm wrong, there could be residential, there could be retail, or there could be a hotel. That's really all I can think of. And we're open to developing any of those. But we're leading with the hotel because we feel like the town needs it. I can't tell you, and even restaurant owners here are begging for it. I've heard many comments about people coming here and drinking and driving 15 minutes away to their Airbnb. So we see a need. Our feasibility study shows the need. I'll let Paul, if he doesn't care, to briefly kind of hit on what we've been through for the last year for those in the room that don't know.
Thank you, Matt. Thank you all too. Is that clock, is that our time, 6 minutes and a half left now, or do we get a little more than that if we need it?
That'd be up to the chairman.
Okay, thank you. Gotcha. All right. Just wanted to make sure we were aware of that. So my name's Paul Shaheen. Matt told you a little bit about me and kind of our connection with Blue Ridge. We've built with DeVell Frady in town. Fell in love with him, fell in love with the city, had a cabin done. For the past year has been the timeline really working on a concept of a boutique hotel, hearing from business owners, hearing from people traveling from Atlanta that spend their tax dollars here, to create something special that isn't here yet. We didn't want to force something into this town. We wanted to work with the city. So we beat down the doors to get Mandy on the phone, and through that process, we had a meeting with Mandy. We had the pre-development meeting. This was a year-long process of hearing the feedback of what y'all wanted it to be, what it could be, the best chance to help both city and you know, tax dollars and tourism and all that in a way that wasn't shoehorned into the city. We felt like over that year we accomplished that. We got up to the point where now there was a new regime, and that was it last week? That was last week where we kind of heard that, hey, we're going to recommend a denial here. At that point, yes, very passionate, very emotional about it. But the year that we've invested here, we feel like we now know, and we want to hear more from you, what this city really wants with that land. Because we know we can do something very special with it, which entices, as Craig will go over here in a second, the upfront boutique walking with the sidewalk, with the rezone, park and walk, where we're not having people drive all over the city. I'm running out of time. I want to let Craig talk a little bit, but we'll answer any questions we have whatsoever. We care about this project, and we care about your opinions of it as well.
Hey guys, I'm Craig. I could talk about the project and what we propose. I could talk about what the project and what we propose, but I don't think that would be the best use of our time. I think what I'd like to do is address what I heard in our meeting was the main consideration for the denial. And it was based on, this is a rezoning, so the rezoning, the basis for denial was that the use was inconsistent with it being a buffer between the CBD and the residential. I think as an urbanist myself, I agree wholeheartedly with that as a core principle of new urbanism. That's what I do in my practice. I look at the timeline of when that was established for the town of Blue Ridge, and correct me if I'm wrong, this was 20, 30 years ago when this zoning was done. Just in my town, in the last 15 years, the rezoning has been rewritten at least twice because of the growth in the town that we live in. And I certainly know that Blue Ridge 20 years ago looked a lot different than it does today. So I guess the point to that line of thinking is that might have been a core principle of what the town's vision was 30 years ago, but because of the growth, I think maybe it's time to maybe look at it differently. And look at the things that have come through as precedent that are being allowed and have been allowed to be rezoned as ZBD in the middle of R1 and surrounded by R1, and there is no buffer. If you look strategically at this map, there is that one little strip. But there's tons of other areas where there's residential that butt directly to the CBD, and they coincide together. We want to bring a project that is for the benefit of the town, has the nature of the beauty of this town, and has the character of what the people of Blue Ridge want it to be. So naturally, the world that we live in is high-end residential and boutique hotels. I've probably done 45 hotels in my lifetime and have gotten awards for several small boutique hotels. And I love them. I love doing them because they bring the identity of the place. They usually are tied to some type of identity of where they're from. That way they can feel like they're of that place. So when we thought about doing a boutique hotel here, we thought everybody would love it. And then Paul spends so much time meeting with the restaurant owners and business owners and going into the retail shops, talking to the people who live here. All of them consistently said the same thing. We would love a boutique hotel because it could share the identity of this place with other people. So that's what we did, and that's what we've built as what we would like to do for this town. So, and I don't have much time left, but I'll just stress again that I think that as a core principle for the denial, as us being a non-consistent with the buffer between CBD and R1, if you look at our little pocket, there was probably a lot of residential there 50, 60 years ago. If you look at it right now, it's several parking lots. There's not a lot of residential density around us. And there's also a street that separates us from that R1. So I would challenge you to look maybe past the current zoning of what you might want this to be and consider us. And I certainly appreciate the recommendation from staff. But I think that we are consistent with what the intent of that was for. So that's all I got. I'm sure there will be questions, but my time's up.
Would anyone like to speak in favor of the project? Is that okay?
Hi, some of you know, oh, sorry. Can you hear me? Okay. Some of you know me and some of you don't. Can you hear me? Okay. My name's Leanne Hobgood. I'm here to represent my brother and myself and the estate of our late mother, Helen Jane Hackney Wilson. My brother Ben and I are graduates of Fannin County High School, and we love the city of Blue Ridge. Our mother grew up in the house that used to be on the property that we are here to talk about tonight. My grandfather, Fred Hackney, ran a local printing shop, which he inherited from my great-grandfather, J.M. Hackney. The shop where he printed is still on the property. I'd like to take a moment to tell you about my mother, Helen. She was a member of the City Council of Blue Ridge. She served from 1989 to 2005. She also served on the Library Board of Directors. My mother loved Blue Ridge so very much, and she strove to see it succeed and prosper. She had a true servant's heart, and I really want to stress that. She had a true servant's heart. It was my mother's hope that our property would be developed into a business that would be welcoming to visitors and residents alike. She would be so glad to see our family property bring jobs to the area and welcome visitors. And I've really heard the people of Blue Ridge say that we need some jobs here, and I'm excited about the prospect of the jobs that this property would bring to the area. I do believe that my mom would be pleased for a boutique hotel to be built on our family property. Thank you so much for allowing me this opportunity to speak to you tonight on behalf of my brother and myself. I would appreciate your support in allowing this development to move forward. My husband Brandon is here with me tonight, and we look forward to retiring in Blue Ridge in the near future. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else in favor, want to speak in favor of the project? Would anyone like to speak in opposition of the project? No?
I don't want to really say right now that I'm in opposition to the project, but I do just have a few concerns that I would like to voice. My name is David Whitener. I live right across the street on 2nd Street. This is where I live. And I guess the first concern is that whatever's done with the property, I mean, I didn't know what kind of hotel or anything, just got the letter that said, look at a hotel. I don't want a dumpy place to be built, you know, like a Motel 6 or something like that, you know, someplace nicer. But then the second thing is this, I wonder about parking, you know, will the parking be there on the property? And then the third thing is, I'd like to see the civil engineering drawings of what's gonna be done with the water runoff from the hotel, because since I've lived in Blue Ridge, there has been a continuous problem of, the first thing is when they put the sidewalk up East Second Street, all the water that used to just go into everybody's yard was now routed down through my yard. And then, as y'all know, there at Church Street and East Second Street and First Street there, it has for years, after they paved the parking lot over there at the church, it has just stood in water. And they've done several things there to try to fix that. And I don't think the infrastructure there will be able to handle the water runoff if you pave another acre. The other thing, and so I just, you know, I'm not saying it couldn't be done, but something needs to be done. But the last time they worked on this, the ditch there at my house, they ended up, it was just filling up with water and it was not going under the road. And so what ended up started happening is they dug out on the other side and found out that it was stopped up on the other side. Well, all that was, they ended up rerouting and doing a whole big thing. And then they came out and on my side of the property, dug out this huge ditch that is 3 or 4 times bigger than it's ever been, and just left a mess. And I was told 2 years ago that that would be fixed, and it never has been. So I just don't want it to get worse there at the house. And then the other concern I would have is I would not like to see alcohol served at the property. And I don't see how it could be with the church just being right there, I mean, across the, you know, catty corner from the thing. But because I guess we all know and understand anybody engaging in alcohol does not show wisdom. And I just do not want all that living right across the street from that sort of thing. But anyway, so like I say, I'm not really saying that I'm opposed to it, but there are just several questions that I have that I would like to see addressed and know what the answer is to be able to make a decision one way or the other. So there you have it.
All valid
And
questions.
just an editorial comment, it does seem very odd, which you usually meet on Tuesday night, that for this meeting, you decided to be on Wednesday night, which would make it extremely difficult for the people that own the property on 2 sides of the property to actually attend. You know, the church on one side, and then I pastor Hemptown Baptist Church, I'm bivocational pastor, to be here as well on Wednesday night. May not have had anything to do with it, but it just seems very, anyway, so there you have it.
No, we don't schedule the meeting, sorry.
Yeah, I can say one thing, I came last night and there's nobody here, so I had to leave and come back tonight.
Can I address this?
Wait,
hold on. So we're still in the public hearing portion, and we're in the portion of the public hearing where people who are opposed to the application are invited to speak. So let's finish the public hearing portion.
Is it-
Jennifer, you can explain why the date was chosen or moved to the night.
Is anyone else in opposition to the project would like to speak up? So we're gonna conclude the public hearing portion of the meeting. So Jennifer, would you like to maybe explain a couple of those?
Mr. Whitener, in response to your concern about the rescheduling, I would like to apologize for that and explain. I was attending clerk training, myself and Deputy Clerk Ms. Walker here with me. We were both out of state, at the very tip of Georgia in the weather, and we had rescheduled because neither of us would have been here to conduct the minutes. So I would like to apologize because I do understand your concern, but that was the reasoning. There was no other reason for that. So I'm sorry for the inconvenience for that very much.
So time for discussion. Any questions? Anybody have anything?
About the rescheduling of the meeting.
No, the rezoning application.
I don't have questions, I've got some comments.
Yeah, let's hit 'em.
So, I guess I want to backtrack a little bit. I understand your frustration over the last year. At the last zoning meeting, I asked the question, when the staff makes a recommendation, who was the staff? And I was basically informed over the last couple of years, the staff was pretty much one person. And that person is no longer with the city. And so I know all the time and effort and work and the money you spent is basically gone as far as that's concerned. I'm very, very familiar with the property and the area up there. I was involved in the rezoning of that property about 25 years ago, so I know a lot about it. I understand Mr. Whitener's problem. I know where he burns leaves in his ditch out there. It's about 3 times larger now than it was a few years ago. And the buffer to that community and all, I understand pretty much all of that. The traffic problems, I understand that as well. I personally think that East First Street should be pretty much some type of light commercial all the way out. I have an office on the other side of, on down the street a little ways right now. And I like your thought process about potentially redoing your plans and developing something different on that property. And I think that would be a better thought process for the city of Blue Ridge and the residents. That's some of my comments.
Yeah, I mean, to Mr. Whitener's point, my biggest concern with the CBD rezoning is parking, and where all these people are gonna park. You know, you get 60 rooms, 50-unit restaurant, and 15 parking spaces. So I'm a little confused about where all these people are gonna go, and that's concerning. I have no doubt the hotel would be beautiful, be spectacular, but I just think, personally, I think the location it's being proposed, and its height, and I think it's imposing. I think it's very aggressive. So that's my personal comment on it. I tend to agree with staff's recommendations. What do you think, Bill?
Yeah, I agree with the staff recommendations. Correct me if I'm wrong, but you're like working with the 2-story building on the same block to purchase that as parking?
Well,
You can come on up. Yep.
The one right at the corner of East First and Depot?
We have an option on that property because when we came here and met with Jennifer and the previous staff, that was a big concern, and we knew it was a concern for us too. So that's why we have an option to acquire that property for parking. We also have a second option Craig's been working on where we can park underneath the hotel, but still have retail on your street. Mr. Whitener, we're just, if I can real quick, I guess it's okay now to, we're trying to do the total opposite of a Motel 6. And we had a drawing. I don't know if Jennifer can pull up all the stuff we submitted that has our renderings. But we showed the previous staff 2 things we could do. What is currently allowed, which will allow a motel, 2 stories tall with heat and air units on top and not very attractive. And the reason we're asking for what we're asking for and to build closer to the property line is for it to be in more fitting with First Street. And then also, you know, there's not like, sometimes you might have a landscape buffer, but we're surrounded by streets. So I know that was the first concern. We have met with the pastor next door, and he is in favor of our project. So I think we've done everything. Now, as far as the water, in my opinion, we'll do whatever, and we have our civil engineer here Zeke to help answer any of those questions. To me, that's a Blue Ridge infrastructure issue that needs to be addressed, but we're happy to work with y'all on that. But as far as the hotel, and the reason I know this is not the time to talk about the height variance, and that'll come on the 17th, but it was to make it more attractive and to be able to have a gable roof and look more like a mountain community boutique hotel. And additionally, as most of y'all know, the bottom of that lot's a lot lower than the top, and the way Blue Ridge, from what we understand, which is different than Southern Building Code, which Craig's used to, we took that into account, and that's why we're asking for the variance. So it's not gonna be poking up 49 feet from the road Mr. Whitener lives on. That'd be down from on First Street. So I don't think it's, and I wish you could see our renderings that we submitted and all the work that Craig has put into it. And we don't know yet, Mr. Whitener, based on where we provide the parking, if we'll have room to even do a full-blown restaurant, to answer your concern about alcohol. Now, I think that's a whole different, applying for a license and all, which will not be part of the rezoning for this. But the last thing I'll say, because I do hear your comments, if we're not able to do this rezoning, we'll go back to the drawing board and have to do something that will fit with the current zoning, which I don't think anyone here would like it as much as what we've come up with. And that's what we have spent the last year with the previous administration, to try and come up with a solution.
Do y'all currently own the property? Is it closed? in
So,
your name?
thank you so much for talking. This is the lady we're buying the property from, and we didn't plan this tonight. We've never met her, so thank you. But yes, we are under contract, and she's been gracious enough. We've paid earnest money, and she keeps letting us extend our contract with our realtor, Josh, here, because we keep moving the meeting. We had to wait on new elections. They wanted to call special meetings for us over here in this room. We've been up here a bunch, and so that's turned sideways, but you can get it, and that would be looking from the bottom of the hill. There you go. So one option we've discussed, and Craig might could allude to it more, is how we would be able to enter a parking underneath the hotel but still keep some of the residential.
So there's about 16 feet of elevation change between First and Second Street, and if and I was not aware of this, and that one of the staff meetings made me aware of this, is the requirement for measuring building height. According to the International Building Code, it's essentially the level of egress of the fire department, where they would enter your building, and essentially the ground level of the hotel is along Second Street. We essentially were going to do a 2-hour separation, and that all of the businesses that front onto First Street would essentially be another building. And the way the International Building Code defines it is that is a basement. That's a walkout basement and should not be considered a story of the building because it's surrounded on 3 sides and only really has one egress out onto First Street. So we thought, in the nature of what was happening in the CBD, that these small little boutique shops, a spa, a restaurant, retail, whatever that looks like, that's the other reason for the rezone, is the current zoning for C1 has a 25-foot rear yard setback. So essentially, we would be putting a lawn in front of these retail spaces where, the CBD, you good buildings are up on the sidewalk, right? And that's where you encourage pedestrian access, and that's what we're doing. We're trying to take all the good core principles of urban design, and that plinth that we had built for these businesses that front onto First Street was essentially going to be a separate project. It's below us. So we looked at the adjacent lot for parking. If we tore the house down, we could, and it wasn't 15 spots, it was 75 spots. Just the 15 would be the immediate, right at the front door at a pull-off and valet. And there was, yeah. But in this scenario, there could be an entrance. Department of Transportation really does not like access or curb cuts close to the corners. So we would try to find something mid-block that we could enter and go through, and there's enough depth in the lot that we could do a 50-foot strip of retail that fronts onto First Street and actually get 2 rows of parking underneath the hotel. Now, we in our pro forma, in which we've paid a large sum of money for people to do analysis and do the research for the comps for this, we had the whole basement area as leasable square footage that would add to, we would have a 6,000 square foot spa and things like that. Well, if we needed to do this, we could eliminate all of that square footage and core program to the hotel, and we could use that for parking. And that would give us probably 50 to 60 spaces under the hotel, and then we would have the additional 15 on top. So we're 10 or 12 spaces over the 1-to-1 ratio of the hotel rooms to kind of help supplement. But since we are taking out a lot of the core program for like a walk-up restaurant that would be 5 or 6,000 square feet, all those parking spaces would go away. So we kind of feel like the parking ratio is close. We might be off by a few spaces, but we're really close. But that was the intent of this. It was to do a 3-story mountain lodge sitting on a stone plinth. And if you look out there right now, there's a little stone wall that runs the entire length of the block. We're trying to pay homage to the identity of what's happening with the look of downtown Blue Ridge and make this a modern version of that, paying respect to all the stuff that was done before us. So, I mean, I would love to, if you have questions, I can go through the design of it or the height of it or the size of it and answer any of your questions.
No, I have comments, not questions.
Sure.
There's been allusions to the fact that you were led to believe or have met many times during the past 12 to 18 months with the prior leadership of the administrative leadership of the city. I was on the city council, and I continually talked with Mandy and Robbie about their meetings. That Robbie was in most of the meetings, I understand. I said previously we have a very dedicated, capable staff. I believe they were in the meetings, and I take a little umbrage at the idea that it was a shock. You were shocked, stunned, or you weren't shocked, stunned, and amazed. Somebody over here was shocked, stunned, and amazed when they had their meeting a week ago and learned that there were difficulties with the plan. First, the city for years has been against spot rezoning and got in trouble when they did some under several previous administrations that were on the opposite side of the railroad track. So this would be one rezoning package in the middle of a bunch of other ones that would not be consistent then with what would be to the left or the right of it. And the city continually has been against ever getting in the spot rezoning business again. And I believe there have been statements that a total rezoning plan for that whole street from one end to the other might not be inappropriate, but that's not on anybody's agenda at this moment. Next, you are totally correct that there is a very strong, vigorous opposition among the business owners and the residents of Blue Ridge to allowing to happen what happened before when a 3-story hotel that was supposed to be 40 feet or 35 feet showed up to be 5 stories, and nobody in any prior administration will take ownership of giving permission to build that building. And this height restriction is not going to go away. And I'm confident that and I'm the one that said during all of the last 4 years that variances can be considered on a case-by-case basis, but there's not going to be any strong citizen energy to omit a basement from a height measurement. Now, I'm not going to speak for the city council, but I can speak for the people that vote for us out there, and they don't want to see another building that from any direction, whether it's First Street or whether it's Second Street, looks like a great big sale. The voters aren't going to approve it. Now, I don't know what city council would do. So basically then it comes back to not what your end use is. This group here has to consider whether that piece of property should be spot zoned as central business district and leave the opposite zonings on either side of it, so that the developer can go to the city council and request permission to do something on that property. So that's basically our question. I see it as our question is that reasonable to spot zone this piece of ground as central business district and ignore what you're talking about putting there, because that's not our job. I can next speak to the tremendous problem that Mr. Whitener mentioned, and that is our infrastructure. It was hinted that the infrastructure, that the water problem is a city infrastructure problem. And I am aware, because I asked this question every time a discussion was made about the meetings you were having, what have they said about getting the water over there and getting the sewer over there? And I will tell you that it is the belief of the voters of the city of Blue Ridge that any money that would have to be spent for your water or Mr. Whitener's water running off of grass that God now has there sucking up water would not be a city issue. That would be a condition of whatever use you come to, even if it's a 35-foot multifamily building or something else. So I have not seen, and there is not in this package, any type of utility plan, any study of what you would do to deliver the sewer, what sewer needs there would be, or how the water would be. But again, that's not our job. Our job is simply to say, is this piece of ground, should this piece of ground be rezoned to central business district so that you and the city council and leadership can do something with it? Is that not basically the city attorney in that?
I think there are two issues for this body to decide.
That's what I want to hear.
One is the rezoning, and the other is the conditional use permit.
We have to consider that height, be forgetting the basement and the height issue or not?
I'm not suggesting that you forget about it. What I'm suggesting is that it ultimately will be for the council to decide whether to grant the variance. But
Correct.
there are two parts of the application that are in front of this body.
That's correct.
The rezoning and the conditional use permit to allow for the hotel.
So the conditional use permits required for a C1 zoning too, correct?
My understanding from staff is that you would have to get, and correct me if I'm wrong, Jennifer, but that you would have to get a condition, it has to be rezoned CBD because we only allow hotels in CBD with a conditional use permit. Am I wrong about that?
So with the current zoning as C1, they would not be able to put a hotel motel without a conditional use. And that's only on our approvability under C2 and CBD. So that would be further, it's not even listed in C1 as a conditional. So it's a little bit more of an ask.
Otherwise, I think that they would be here just for a conditional use permit and not for the rezoning.
What's the higher density with the CBD versus C1? I think you're limited to like 10 units an acre, which would be less than 10 units. So I figured the CBD rezoning was an effort to get higher densities.
I'm gonna get the code for you.
Can I comment on the infrastructure upgrade?
Sure, come on.
So my name is Zeke Hunsberger. Work at Foothills Civil and Environmental Consultants. I was working with these guys on analyzing the infrastructure and what we need to do to accommodate this 60-room boutique hotel. We worked with Rebecca Harkins over at the city's water and sewer. We found that 310 linear feet of 6-inch line needed to be upgraded to 10-inch. That would be a road cut, so it would be about, I would say, 3 to 7 days to cut that section out, trench it, and replace it to provide adequate sewer capacity for this proposed hotel. Additionally, the water, there was sufficient water both to accommodate this hotel as well. So you're looking at a week of minor inconvenience, upgrade that sewer line, which, you know, could be accommodating for future users in that area for additional sewer capacity. To address kind of your concerns about the runoff, it's standard for all new developments that the pre-construction runoff has to be less than or equal to post-construction runoff. So we would absolutely not increase any runoff, and it would be a net benefit for you. You know, there's things we can do, semi-porous concrete, underground detention basins, things like that to address that very thing, which I would be, you know, concerned about as well. But it will be addressed, and you'll see less runoff than you do now.
Right now, I would think the places right there on the corner will flood.
Well, we'll walk it. Me and you will walk it. We'll,
I mean, I think they, just based off, from right there to the corner, there's not a 4-inch water line, a 4-inch line that they ran back through there. It's a very small piece of pipe. And it, if
We'll-
there's any more water, I think, I mean,
it will be addressed. We'll
I mean, you'll have to dig all that out and replace all that.
yeah.
Their expense.
That's the infrastructure improvements from the sewer.
Yeah, you haven't said, and it's not your money, but it would be, I am of the opinion, let me say once again, that any of this changing of the pipe that Rebecca mentioned to you, or any other improvements, modifications, digging, or anything else would be at the developer's expense and not the expense of the city.
Agreed.
Okay, just want to make that out sort of on the video, please.
Fair.
So your underground stormwater detention is the
Yeah,
method here? Yeah.
we won't exceed pre-construction runoff. That's just standard
Sure.
construction practice across the board.
Understood. Anyone, any other comments?
Now, I'm asking our city attorney, how much are we focusing on I mentioned about the height, and the height that it would be seen from East First Street, not East Second Street. Are we considering here at this meeting the height?
Not the requested variance.
Okay, what, it's just, you know, I'm old, so make it real simple, other than making it CBD so somebody could think about a hotel. What the other issue of variance that we're asking, that we're looking at?
Okay.
Simply the hotel issue?
Yeah, so I'm looking at the table of uses in our zoning ordinance.
Yes.
Hotels and motels are not permitted uses in the C1 zoning district.
Correct. I looked
They
that up
are
myself.
permitted as a conditional use in either CBD or C2. So this property would have, in order for there to be a hotel on this property, two things would have to happen. One, it would have to be rezoned, and then two, the decision would have to be made to grant the conditional use permit. And so the proposal, the applicant is asking for the property to be rezoned CBD and for there to be a conditional use permit issued to allow for the hotel. The variance is separate, right? I mean, in theory, you could approve or recommend approval of those two things. It would go before the council with that recommendation. Again, in theory, the council could agree with the recommendation but deny the variance. But for your purposes tonight, you're being asked to make a recommendation as to the rezoning of the property and
The
whether
use.
to grant the conditional use permit for the hotel.
Nothing about height, nothing about setbacks or front yards or backyards or boat, out parcels or anything else.
Yeah, come on, yes.
The word spot zone was brought up a time or two, and the map that I saw, can y'all clarify something for us? Spot zone would mean it has no other around it, right? Because from what I saw and what I think I know, and I could be wrong, there is CBD across the street from us. So it wouldn't be a spot zone, correct? And commercial on both sides, along with some examples down the road that have CBD touching residential, which I think I have the street written down. So that, on the other side of First is CBD, correct? Okay. So just to clarify, it is not a spot zone request, which is what we had been understanding for the past year as well, year plus. And it's, what is it? McKinney and, I mean, there's examples, I think it's McKinney and by Dogwood and First. It's First or Second?
It is.
Yeah.
If you look at the map, it's all red. What the request is to take a piece out of the middle of that red. I don't care what you label it. It is that by the language that has been used for the last 10 years around here. We call that spot zoning. And we got, I don't care what the Webster's dictionary calls it. In Blue Ridge, it's spot zoning. If we take a strip of red and pull one or two pieces out of the middle and change it, that's a spot. Now, that might not be the architect definition, but it's the Blue Ridge definition. Right?
Again, personally, I do not object to a hotel. I'm fine with a hotel. I just think the CBD zoning and the parking issue is huge. That's just my personal take on it.
We've addressed all that.
I don't think you have enough parking for what you're proposing though. And the height things aside, I think it's too high. I think it's too tall for where it is.
We, at the request of you guys, we paid for a parking study, and we have more parking spots than hotel rooms, and we're doing valet only for that reason.
I don't see how you have more parking spots than hotel rooms.
We submitted all.
So the plan I have isn't the correct plan? The site plan?
There's a parking plan that shows the lot next to it, which doesn't.
It has 47 spots on my plan, and the lot next door, and the parcel that you currently are rezoning has proposed 13 plus 2 handicap. So, I mean, so you got 47 plus 15 total, if you get the adjacent parcel. That's me looking at the plans that I was submitted, that were submitted to me, so.
Like we said, we're also willing to eliminate part of the retail and add parking underneath the hotel.
So, and then, and access from that would be off, Church Street?
Yes, it's the center of this drawing. And if we
So it'd be off East First, off Top Street?
We can do both, actually. If we need to remove the special use section and just vote on CBD, we're fine with that too. But my question would be, what we are allowed to do. If we don't want the height issue, and if we don't want a hotel, what can we do to help this town where we can develop some real estate on this lady's piece of land?
That's not my decision there.
Well, it is, it's this whole city's decision, because we can't get an answer from anybody on what we can do.
I think the proposal's aggressive. I don't
Aggressive in what way?
Well, mainly the height issue. I know we're not talking about that tonight, but I think it's from where the property is located and where the project's located. I think it's very aggressive.
We can put a flat roof on it and eliminate that, no problem.
And look, and you can ask anybody here that's listening to these meetings. I am not hung up on the height thing. I'm more interested in beautiful architecture. I don't care if it exceeds the height or not.
And that's why we hired Craig. If you go to his website, it's
I'm sure it'll be
beautiful.
nice. I just think it's imposing here, and maybe the 12-foot basement. I mean, I agree with Doc. I don't think that's going to go away through the eyes of the residents here. That doesn't just disappear. It's counted in the building height, and it's going to be counted in the building height. So.
Well, I mean, our job is just to recommend to the council. We don't make any final
Sure.
decision.
And we're willing to adjust things. We have shown that over the last year, because we get different people in different meetings and different opinions, and then we go back and spend money and try to bring it back
That's
again.
got to be maddening.
And we're not the Hampton Inn people, and we're not the ones that Doc alluded to that I think he said shouldn't have happened. We're just here for what we're trying to do, and we're trying to do it the right way, and we're asking everybody's opinion of what is the right way to do
Well,
it.
and to Doc's point, I mean, we could, if it was rezoned CBD, it's still up to the city council to make that final call, but it's also their decision to make the final decision on height variance request. So,
I think that our city attorney says all we're asking, the issues before us are, one, CBD, yes or no, and 2, hotel. Has nothing about height, nothing about the way it looks, and nothing about cutting in East First Street, and nothing
Well,
about
I
the
mean,
water.
The looks, the architectural design, I love it. I'm just not sold on it being in that particular location. If you were at a different location, I'd probably be all over. But, you said you can change.
We
that.
can, and we previously submitted drawings where it had a flat roof. It was just not very appealing architecture.
Well, and that was one of my arguments during the whole height argument all these past couple of years is you're gonna end up with a bunch of flat, ugly, flat roofed, ugly buildings if we're not careful.
Well, that's one of the issues that we have in the city right now. We do not have really an architectural design requirement.
We're trying to establish that here.
And that is a major.
That's been on my agenda since I've been here, is to have a historical district and have appearance standards, I'll put it that way.
Really can consider to compromise on the building height. And I understand where that came from. When I walk down there, I feel it, right? Walking next to the wall of the building that should not be in the height that it is in your beautiful town. We understand that, 100%. But there's a discrepancy on this side that's 16 feet across one side to the other. If we were to use your current rules, that's a 2-story building. That's a 1-story building from First Street, and it's a 1-story building from Second Street. This doesn't work. That'd be like 12 hotel rooms.
Well, and it'd be ugly, and Mr. Whitener would be staring at all those heat and air units. That's why we tried to build it this way.
Yeah, and that was the reason for kind of trying to concept it and give you guys what we thought would look good and be in keeping with the spirit of what everyone's asking for, which is why this list of variances we're asking to be considered. But for now, the only one that's being considered, and the attorney has brought it to our attention multiple times, is whether or not you agree that this shift from C1 to CBD, right? If we don't get the CBD, then we can't do the special use, we can't do a hotel. And that, just take all that gear and revenue that we've invested in this and put it in the trash.
And all the jobs we plan to create and all the tax revenue for you guys. And we're not asking for TIFs. We're not asking for TADs. We're not asking for a pilot. But we're gonna hire local people to work here, and we're gonna generate a lot of tax revenue for this city that we think needs it. And we've been asking these questions for going on 14 months.
I
And we, not just you guys, the whole town and everybody we've met with. And so I guess to answer your question, Doc, that's why we were a little taken back last week. We were so excited to get on that phone call, and the first thing Eric said, we deny it. And we're like, what? Look at what we've been through for the last year. And Eric's exact words were, well, I don't know anything about the last year. I just started here 2 weeks ago. That was his answer. And I said, well, tell us why you're denying it. And he said, because we always recommend you go with how it was originally zoned, which is C1. And I asked if the call was being recorded, and the reason I did is because if that is the basis for the recommendation, that means that you would have to deny every zoning request that comes through here. And that's the whole purpose of a rezoning. Towns grow, we try to make them nicer, things happen. Believe me, in Hamilton County, and I've sat in your seat for 15 years on as chairman of our zoning board, I totally, and there's places in Hamilton County that have been butchered, and it makes me sick to my stomach. That is not what we're trying to do here. We're trying to do it the right way. And CBD will help us go closer to the sidewalk. If you take 25 feet around that building, it really limits what we can do. If we still end up purchasing the land from this nice lady, we're gonna have to figure out what we can do on C1 without a special use permit. And all I know is we can maybe build some 2-story condos or townhouses, and that's an option. I don't know, we could build some retail maybe there, but it wouldn't fit with the rest of First Street because it wouldn't be in line with the rest of First Street. And if you look, and we submitted all this too, we even paid to fly a drone and look at elevation and the survey and the topography. But that law office next door, that roof line is not much different than what our roof line is going to be. I know when you look at that, I mean, it's 3 stories, but because of the elevation change, I don't think it's as dramatic as what you might think. Yeah, and we showed all that. I don't know if it's in the packet you have.
Because staff asked us to
Sure.
we modified it to be lower.
Yeah, we actually changed it to make it more in line with the law office next door.
We did submit a parking study.
I don't know, I didn't read, did I see? Was it in the packet? I didn't see it. I didn't see
I
it.
don't think it's in the packet.
Mandy had the parking study months ago.
I just know there's a lot of, parking's a big issue here in Blue Ridge.
More on the parking, we've understood that for a couple months now
I'm
as
sure.
well. I've talked to anyone with space, and through that process, you know, and getting to know what Mandy really, what the vibe really was, it was figure out a way where it's on-site, which was another hurdle or 3 or 4 that we've jumped, and to come with that, plus what Craig is working on as well, which would allow more on-site as well to hit those numbers. So we're with you. We understand the parking. We come here a lot. We deal with it. And we understand why you didn't want it off-site at one of these spots we almost had to deal with. So parking, we feel like we've got that.
Anyone else? Anyone want to make a motion?
So, do we make a motion on both or on
Well,
one?
we're asked to consider the rezoning and then also the conditional use permit for a hotel for this parcel, or these 2 parcels.
Maybe, Jennifer, just for clarification, I thought today was just rezoning and then the other 2 were city council. Is that
The
not-
variance height, the height is the city council. They
Yeah.
decide on that.
And the other, the second
The
today?
conditional use.
Is the
Conditional use would be here.
They're both at the zoning.
Yeah, they make a recommendation on both
Okay.
the rezoning and the
Gotcha.
conditional use.
And the city council has ultimate say on all of that, so we're just making recommendations, so. Come on, guys, talk to me.
I make a motion to disapprove.
Or to disapprove.
Correct.
Disapprove both?
CBD. If we disapprove CBD, then the conditional use doesn't make a difference.
Yeah, that didn't come up.
I'm concerned of how much further is it gonna go? Is Mr. Whitener in 2 years gonna try and sell his property and put something else on it? And we keep moving further and further out into residential? I don't know.
Understand?
Campground, should Mr. Whitener have the right to do that if he wanted to?
Excuse me?
I think
Kiwanis
we're,
Club?
I think,
Isn't it a Kiwanis Club in
I
campground?
think we're past the Q and A section, all right? There's been a motion to recommend denial.
Your turn.
Little torn.
You're the little boy here.
Torn. Anyone?
I'm the new guy. It's your turn.
I'm not comfortable that I have the right answer. That's my problem. I don't know that I have the right answer. I'll be honest saying that.
Well, I mean, he's looking for a second. I personally have no problem with the rezoning.
Second.
The problem with conditional use is what I've got an issue with right now.
The conditional use part of it.
All right, so I would ask for a second.
Or do we have a second on that motion?
All right.
No?
That motion
That
fails
motion
for lack of a
fails.
second.
Yep.
Another motion would be in order.
Anyone?
So I make a motion that we, agree to rezone from C1 to CBD.
And does that motion include?
No.
Hold on, the conditions that were recommended by staff in the event
Yes.
of recommendation?
That's correct.
So we're just doing that, only the CBD part of that
This motion would be.
for the CBD
To
component.
recommend approval of the rezoning to CBD.
Do we have a s-
With the conditions that were recommended by
The
staff
staff.
in the event of the recommendation.
Correct.
So do we have a second on that motion with the conditions from staff? Anyone?
You can motion second.
I'm gonna second that motion.
Good.
I'm gonna second that motion. And now, so do we have a motion for the, conditional use permit?
No, you gotta vote
Oh,
this
I'm
one.
sorry, my bad. So can we have a vote? All in favor? Yes. Against? 1, so 3-1.
All right, so there's an adopted motion to recommend approval of the rezoning with the conditions that were recommended by staff.
Correct.
Now, we need consideration of.
For a motion for the conditional
special-
use permit, special use permit. And that's where you're having a problem.
I won't make that motion.
Let me ask for clarification. Having made this rezoning vote, does that allow the developer to go to the city council with a request for the variance, or would that have to come back here?
So, the variance would move forward to the council no matter what recommendation is made by this body. Now, it could be moved, depending on what ultimately happens, but the variance would be presented to the council regardless of the recommendation here.
So if there's no motion on the variance for or against, does it just die?
So, there will be no motion on the variance on the conditional use permit.
Correct.
So, if there is no motion, it would go to the council without a recommendation.
That sounds like a smart thing to do.
And we're talking of the conditional use, not the variance. The variance is out of the picture.
Correct.
Variance is
It's a
gone.
condition that, this, I had articulated at the beginning, I think our biggest problem is this gonna be a CBD? Once it's CBD, it's my opinion that it's the council's job to decide out what they allow for it and don't allow for it. And therefore, if we just fail to have a motion on the
Special.
conditional use,
Right.
then then I think we've done a yeoman's job. We're letting our city council make a decision about what to do with a piece of CBD property.
So I would, just to be clear, I would call for a motion on the conditional use permit. And then if there's not a motion, or if there's a motion and it fails for lack of second, whatever the case may be.
Right.
But I would at least call for the motion.
All right, I'm gonna call for a motion for the conditional use permit. Anyone? No motion.
So the recommendation to the council will be to rezone the property CBD with the conditions recommended by staff. There is no recommendation from the planning commission as it relates to the conditional use permit.
That's it, I believe, right?
Mr. Chairman, thank y'all for your time.
Yep.
We never heard.
Let us
what the
adjourn.
conditions-
Yeah,
Let us adjourn.
I'm gonna adjourn the meeting, so meeting is officially
We
adjourned.
don't know what we've never heard conditions before. Can you somebody give us what those are?
The condition, for the conditional use permit? To have a hotel?
No, it's that approved.
Oh, I'm sorry.
I don't know what the conditions
Hold
are.
on. Let's, just before we adjourn, that the applicant submit to the city satisfaction prior to any permitting being approved, a traffic study demonstrating proposed points of ingress and egress, the impacts of those proposed points, and recommendations for addressing these impacts. 1. 2, applicant developer at its expense will be required to obtain city permits prior to constructing any points of ingress or egress that intersect with a local street or road. Permits may require conditions that applicant developer make necessary upgrades or improvements to the local infrastructure at its expense deemed necessary by the city to mitigate or eliminate any burdens to local infrastructure. 3, applicant developer must submit a utility plan to the city for review. The required utility plan must include water and wastewater and include enough information and detail for the city to analyze the impact of the proposal on city utility systems. Any upgrades and extensions necessitated by the project and required by the city must be paid by the applicant developer and must be previously permitted and subsequently inspected and accepted by the city. Applicant developer shall pay all water and sewer surcharge and tap fees prior to the issuance of building permit. 4, applicant developer shall cause to construct a sidewalk along Church Street adjacent to their property in conformance with city standards. And 5, applicant developer must submit a stormwater management plan, including drainage culvert improvements for the city for review and approval.
We're doing all that anyway, thank you.
I think we talked about all that, didn't we?
It's all good, thank you.
We're adjourned.
Okay.
I love DeVell, you know that, right?
Huh?
DeVell Frady.
Oh,
We
yeah.
love him. How you doing?
Well, I tried to do the right thing.
Good to talk to you.